Welcome, everyone, to another edition of SCRC's Let's Talk Caregiving. I'm your host, Roberto Velasquez, President and CEO of Southern Caregiver Resource Center. And I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Marta Rañón, our Executive Vice President. How are you doing, Marta?
I'm doing great, Roberto. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Today's special guest is Adrianna Yemhatpe. Adrianna is the Director of Social Services at Travelers Aid Society of San Diego, where she has worked for the past 10 years. She oversees programs that provide transportation and supported services to older adults, people with disabilities, individuals experiencing homelessness, and those fleeing domestic violence. Through her work, Adrianna has helped expand community partnerships and transportation programs that connect vulnerable populations to critical services throughout San Diego County. Welcome, Adrianna.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to share our program information.
Adriana, we're so happy you're here. And I've got to be honest, I had not heard of this service. And I was reading on your website that you have been around for almost 125 years. That is amazing. Can you tell us a little bit more about your organization and what it does?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been around for quite some time. We still have our original information booth where Travelers Aid was established down at Santa Fe Depot. If anyone wants to visit our booth there, it's a wonderful wooden historic booth. And we manage that spot with some volunteers with the tourism industry and the day to day basis. But right now, our focus is really on older adults and other connecting people with transportation. The majority is older adults, but we do help with a homeless outreach program. We help with domestic violence survivors, and we also help with people with disabilities, connecting them with transportation throughout the county.
I am glad to hear that you mention older adults because, as you know, here at Southern Caregiver Resource Center, our focus is the older adults and, of course, the caregivers who are behind the older adults and taking care of all of their needs. And we know for a fact that many of our clients, many of the people that we talk to, transportation is one of those challenges because a lot of these caregivers are also working outside the home. They also have their families that they're taking care of. And sometimes it's difficult to try to coordinate something as maybe simple to you and me, like a trip to the doctor's office. And it doesn't become, it's not that simple when you're talking about someone who might have mobility issues, might have dementia, might have some sort of condition that is not so easy for them to get to places. Can you tell us a little bit about the program? How you focus on the older adults and those individuals that need that care.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we do is we help provide the funding for transportation. We also help organize the transportation for older adults. A lot of the time, people are referred to us by different agencies. Their case manager may have heard about us through word of mouth or their caretaker. And we're here to really serve as a resource for them, especially when they're limited when it comes to finances. All of our older adults in our older adult programs are for people who are extremely low income. They have an average income of about $1,200, and we will help pay for their transportation, whether it's using paratransit services, Lyfts or Ubers. We will help pay for bus passes. So we try to help meet their needs, whatever their transportation looks like, and where there is a gap in services that they need help with.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. When our clients come to us, our clients, of course, are family caregivers who about 50% of them are also older adults themselves. One of the often identified needs for families are part of what we call instrumental activities of daily living, which include transportation services. And so we often refer them to fact San Diego, which is a resource here in San Diego for transportation, or sometimes to their own insurance companies because some of their health providers provide transportation to and from their doctor's appointments. But the truth of the matter is that your services sound like they can expand to all kinds of different opportunities for transportation. And I'm sure a lot of families would love to know, like, the different types of transportation then can be utilized through your program.
Yeah, so FACT is actually a wonderful partner of ours. We refer a lot of our clients over to them if we're not able to meet all their needs. The same with health insurance companies. But what makes Travelers Aid a little different is that all of our services are completely free. So we cover the cost of the transportation rides, whether it is going to the doctors or other essential trips, such as the pharmacy, the bank. It really depends on their needs and their mobility issues. And one program specifically for caregivers that I want to mention is our volunteer driver program. We are able to sign up caregivers or anyone that is in that rider's life, and we can help support them with vehicle stipends for driving them. And these are likely rides they're already providing. It's just more of an incentive or a thank you for the trips that they need to give to their mother, father, neighbor, whoever it is that they're caring for. When that happens, we sign them up as a driver and then we work with them to get them issued vehicle stipends each month.
I am so glad that you are talking about this program because I'm thinking back to when I was a family caregiver, and obviously, with my aunt having to take her to doctor's appointments and even to cut her hair, and just other necessities that I needed to drive her to, but I wasn't able to all the time because I was working full time. And so being able to have a reliable source of transportation, but also someone that you can trust. And I bring this up because I know caregivers are very hesitant to just let anyone come into their homes to take the person that they are caring for, and maybe fear that something will happen and that they cannot possibly take care of them as best as they can. And sometimes, we're a little reluctant to have our loved ones go with a total stranger. So how do you work with the family caregivers to allay those fears, to ensure that they have all of the background documentation, that they are appropriate match maybe for someone that they are serving? Because again, dementia, Alzheimer's, cognitive impairment is a little different than just having a mobility issue.
Yeah, absolutely. When people have cognitive impairments, unfortunately, we cannot send them on our own in a Lyft or an Uber. We hope that's a good time for the volunteer drivers to help guide them. But we usually ask at that point if they can have someone accompany them, whether that's a neighbor, another trusted individual, or a family member, or the caregiver themselves. We are a very small office, so we are four full-time staff members and one part-time staff member. So we try to work really closely with the caregiver or the family members that are referring their loved ones over to us. So we work with them really close to try to gain that trust and also figure out the best transportation solution, if it is or isn't a volunteer driver as opposed to a Lyft or a paratransit service.
Yeah, that's great. I applaud your company. I applaud Travelers Aid Society for taking that extra step to make sure when somebody has some cognitive impairment, to make sure that somebody is accompanying them during these transportation services. We know that an individual can't be going by themselves when they have, Alzheimer's. They might get lost. They might not be able to find the doctor's office once they're there, those kinds of things, or even going grocery shopping and things like that. They need to be accompanied. But what's wonderful, I think, is that the caregiver can go with them. We have, like I said, a lot of older adults who are caregivers to their spouse or to their older brother or sister or something like that. And so they're hesitant to drive. So having a volunteer from your own neighborhood or somebody that you know that might be able to participate in your program and voluntarily take them is very convenient, and I think something of a relief for the family and the family caregiver, who can actually go with everybody to the grocery store or do some errands and stuff. So I think that's wonderful.
Adriana, would you be able to tell us what the process is for someone to access your services? I mean, I know you mentioned that they're free, and that's wonderful. What is the process?
Absolutely. So for all of our programs, we do require an application. And we like the opportunity to speak with the older adult or their caregiver, whoever is referring them to us directly. For each person, we ask that they can call us or email us at our office. And that way we can screen them over the phone. They might hear about a specific program and they might want to apply for a specific program. But if once we speak with them, we can establish that we can meet more of their needs by enrolling them in a different program. All of our things that we offer, most come from different sources of funding. So we want to screen them for all of the services we're able to provide them. And then we will send them out an application. Once we receive an application back, the turnaround time is less than a couple of days from when we receive it in the mail or through email. And then they can begin services. If it is something that can be mailed out, like MTS Access vouchers, we go ahead and we do so. If it's something like a Lyft or an Uber, we can schedule that within one full business day. So we have the ability to schedule some trips that are last minute trips without a ton of advance notice.
And where in the area, what is the or service area for families to know? Because I know that San Diego is pretty large and people live all over the county, caregivers are all over the county. So, what is your service area?
Absolutely. So San Diego County is huge. Technically, our service area is the entire county of San Diego for some of our programs. Other ones are a little more specific. It really depends on what services they're using. Volunteer drivers, we're able to fund volunteer drivers all throughout the county. So if someone is looking for a volunteer driver in their area, we will reach out to our network of drivers and see if we're able to connect them with someone. If we're not able to connect them with someone or they have a caregiver or family member they want to be their driver, then we work with them on the process of having them sign up as a driver, which is a volunteer driver handbook they receive for. And this goes back to your question earlier on how we vet our drivers. We do run a background check annually. We require their license, insurance, registration, and then some other vehicle information just to make sure that everything is covered once they're in that vehicle. If someone wants to sign up as a volunteer driver just for their mother or whoever they're caring for, that's fine. If they want to open it up to all, if they're an IHSS worker or they work with multiple people, they can drive all of them. Or if they just want to say, I want to drive anyone within a 15-minute radius of me, we have plenty of clients that we can connect them with anywhere in the county.
That's wonderful.
What,
Thank you.
Adriana, what's your volunteer driver program called?
It actually just called our volunteer driver program. It falls under two sources of funding that we have. Both are through Sandag. One program is called Senior Ride. One is called Senior Solutions. But it all falls under the same umbrella.
Oh, okay. I just thought, you had some marketing catchy name that would compete with like some of the more popular ones right now, like Uber and Lyft and things like that.
Yeah, there's some really good names out there. We're open to any if someone has something more creative, but right now it's just a volunteer driver program.
Excellent.
Easy. So, Adriana, I was curious because I know that a lot of our families, living in San Diego County are bilingual, mostly Spanish. Do your drivers have, are they screened for some sort of an additional language? Do you match them accordingly to the needs of the individual? How do you go around about doing that? Because I know, for example, with our clients, when we are talking to them about in home care, for example, there is a process where they want to make sure that language is not a barrier, that they have an understanding about where they're coming from, and that way they can also have better communication with the person that they are supporting. So I was just curious to see if that's also a consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, unfortunately, our volunteer driver number is down to what it was pre-pandemic. We're down to about 25 volunteer drivers. which is why we wanted to come on here today so that we can help recruit more drivers. So we're not able to pair people by language. While in the office, we do have the ability to have a language line to connect people with services, no matter what their language or preferred language is. Unfortunately, we don't have that ability right now, but we are always looking. So if any caregivers listening or anyone listening for resources would like to be a volunteer driver or know someone that could use that extra source of income or and wants to help their community, we're open to that and we can connect them with writers of any language.
Thank you, Adriana. I did want to ask, I know you provide supported services also. So, in addition to transportation, you provide Travelers Aid Society of San Diego provides supportive services. What are some of the supported services that you also provide?
Absolutely. So I'll give you a couple of examples. We offer orientation and mobility training. So if someone has recently lost their ability to see and can no longer take the bus to a grocery store, we have someone that will come out to their home and train them in utilizing mass transit so they can maintain their independence. We also offer travel training, which happens in groups. So I will go to a facility, for example, Park de la Cruz is a senior center out of City Heights. And we conduct travel training sessions where we introduce the bus and trolley system to everyone, followed by a field trip. And lastly, we help people get out and about. So we will schedule social trips for people. So we've been working again with Park de la Cruz so that we can schedule field trips like the flower fields. We use a shuttle bus through Jewish Family Services and arrange for 15 individuals completely free to go up to the flower fields in Carlsbad for a day. So we help to keep them social. We help to get them on whatever transportation maintains their independence. And then we also offer information and referral services. So if we can't help them, we stay in the know of whatever partners and local agencies can help them out.
I'm thinking that there is a lot that we could work together on because to have the care receivers that are caregivers, who they are caring for, to give them that opportunity to go on a field trip. Sometimes we get so tunnel vision with doctor's appointments and the necessities of, life and all the responsibilities, but sometimes socializing is just as important. And when you're saying flower fields, we're so fortunate to live in San Diego where the climate, the weather is so nice and it's such a beautiful place to visit. I'm glad to hear that you also incorporate some of that socialization and social outlets that hopefully our caregivers can take advantage of and reach out for more information.
Absolutely. They're more than welcome to call our office and see what types of trips we have available in their area. We live in San Diego. The beaches are here, but so many of our older clients aren't even able to make it to the beach. And if it's not a trip that we already have scheduled, I'm always open to suggestions and we can make it happen. We're flexible, whether it's going to use a shuttle, Lyft or Ubers, or using mass transit to get around.
That's so great to know. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I know that Martha, when she's out doing community educational programs, almost every single presentation that she does is talks about self-care and doing things for yourself, as you were just mentioning, Martha. So, I mean,
Mhm.
this is wonderful to have options for families that we work with and train them um, on self-care and how to take care of themselves as well as their individual that they're caring for. But to have these opportunities is just great.
I'm just thinking about, for all of those caregivers who are kind of sandwiched between work and their children and of course their caregiving needs, sometimes planning an outing is too much and they might not have the time to do that. I just can't imagine how that would fit in, how a trip to Carlsbad coming from, let's say, Chula Vista, would pan out. And so to be able to have an agency such as yours that can organize that and make that happen, then as the caregiver you're providing an outlet, a social experience, it's fun, something out of the or the routine, I should say. And then you don't have to, as a caregiver, be troubled by having to coordinate that.
Yeah, and not only the coordination, Martha, but I think also like the hesitation to drive across the county during traffic hours, during hot conditions or something of that nature, because I know, I mean, just with my parents when they were still with us, it started to become very challenging for them to leave the city, and my dad drove all his life, but he had diabetes and he started to lose sensation on his feet, and it was starting to become unsafe for him to drive because of pressing on the gas and the brakes, and sometimes the reaction was a little slower. So to be able to go somewhere outside of your normal routine and routes is really exciting, I think, for people like Martha says, to go on a trip.
Yeah, absolutely. I That made me think of my own family members. My grandmother was my grandfather's caregiver actually, and at some point she lost the confidence and ability to drive on the freeway. So one thing we pride ourselves in is the ability to mix and match services. So someone might be able to drive their spouse or their mother locally, but they might need help with those longer distances. And that's where we come in to try to help them get those longer distances or get wherever it is that they need to go that they're not able to receive just from their caregiver or just on a bus, something that's more convenient for them.
Any last words, suggestions, information, Adriana, that you want to share with our audience? I know that, like I said, I wasn't familiar with your service, but now I feel like it makes a lot of sense for caregivers to know about it and maybe access anything that you want to share with them that would be beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. We just revamped our website. So we would like to direct people towards our website to get an overview of services. But again, we're a small agency and we're so happy just to help cater to everyone's needs. They're welcome to give us a call to be screened for individual services. It's a lot of information. Navigating transit in San Diego County is scary and difficult even through wonderful partner agencies, and they might need to mix and match services. So that's exactly what we're here for, and they're welcome to call us. If they're not low income and don't qualify for our services, we are still very happy to help refer them to and walk them through another agency that can provide their needs.
Yeah, thank you for that. In fact, I already sent your website information to our intake coordinator so that she would make sure to add you to our resources list, because once I started looking at all the services that you provide, it's just an amazing organization that you work for. So I'm glad you're here and sharing with us all the wonderful opportunities there are for transport and supported services for the families out in the community, especially for our older adult population. Well, that's all the time we have left for this edition of Let's Talk Caregiving. To hear more of our podcasts, follow us on your favorite podcasting platforms or visit our website at scrc.care. I want to thank Martha for co hosting another important discussion and Adrianna Yemhatpe for joining us today, and our audience for tuning in. If you're providing support to a loved one, you don't have to do this alone. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. To connect to our programs and services, visit our website at scrc.care or call us at 1 800 827 1008. If you live outside of San Diego and Imperial counties, visit caregivercalifornia.org to connect to the Caregiver Resource Center near you. To support our efforts and make a tax-deductible donation, please go to scrc.care and click on the Donate tab. And remember, SCRC is here for you,
Caring
caring for
for
those
those
who
who
care
care
for
for
others.
others.